Now, you've just been on a panel talking about the value of rail to the distribution network. What's your conclusion of what was discussed?
Well, we've been involved in rail since 2001. We ran 2 trains a week and nothing was time sensitive. Today we're running 4 trains virtually a day between the south and the north, and we're moving an average 1,300 loads a week. So it's a fundamental key part of our business and our strategy. In the last 12 years, our fleet hasn't grown by a single unit, and we've utilised between longer length trailers and rail. And certainly as we move forward for the next 10 to 12 years, we see rail playing a bigger part of our whole strategy of moving goods around the country.
Do you think that's because of your geographical location in Scotland rather than, say, if you were based in the south of England?
Yeah. I think it's helped because the mileage between Scotland and England, predominantly the Midlands is a very strong area for volume to go to and volume to come from. However, probably in the last 2 years, as we've seen driver wages increase and also fuel increase, the journeys become a bit shorter. So it's how you make it work. And I think one of our strengths is we've brought a real road haulage culture and can-do approach to the rail network, thinking outside the box. So yeah, this is important, but I think how you utilise and sweat the assets is equally important.
One of the things you'd like to see is heavier lorries operating within relatively short distances of rail terminals. Could you just explain that?
So we discussed in the panel today, how do we get more volume onto rail? A traditional road haulage industry has got a very can-do, will-do approach. We can move anything. No, there's always a way from that point of view. One of our biggest challenges in rail is that Scotland imports cube, because we do a lot for the retail sector. However, south we bring a lot of goods for the drinks industry, the food industry, the timber industry as well, so we'll normally weigh out before we cube out. So if I've got a curtain side that leaves a customer's site and a container for rail, the container's 3.5 tonnes penalised before he even leaves the gate. So we're dropping 2 to 3 pallets of goods off. So our concept has been, it's called 48 tonnes for 48 miles. So allow us to run the same carrying capacity as a curtain cider out the gate, but within a 48, 50 mile radius of the rail terminal. So at least we're putting rail on parity with road.
What do you think the big challenges are for rail freight distribution?
I think the challenge is one is very disciplined. A train leaves at a certain time, and 9 to 10 does arrive at the right time. We in transport road worst anyway. We give customers flexibility. We can load later and still get there in time. At the moment in time, the biggest challenge is sustainability on what we're doing with greenhouse gases. Up until a few months ago, we were probably heading for 80% of our freight moving by electric traction. Today we're back to 100% diesel traction because of the cost of electricity. That's not good. But I think the growth is there's capacity on the rail to be had. I'd like to see more support of how freight and passenger can work together. Because there's quite a number of paths in the UK network that are not fully utilised, but passenger always get first option on it. I'm not saying that's wrong. However, I think over the years we've failed in a lot of parts of the UK to get people from road, passengers from road to rail. There's a very strong want to get freight from road to rail to help us on that journey.
One of the other big topics at this conference is decarbonisation. And I know that you are doing lots of work on alternative fuel types. Can you just tell us a little bit more about your view on the future of post-diesel?
Well, I think the one thing about rail will help alternative fuels and trucks, because obviously the shorter distance a truck is doing, the more chance I get with alternative fuels. We did quite a strong trial with LNG. In fact, we'd actually bought our first few trucks. Unfortunately, north of the border today, the main supplier of LNG in Scotland pulled out. We still don't have supplies. Now, rather than lucky than clever, the cost of LNG has made it non-competitive even with diesel. So we probably made the right decision to cancel those trials. We were doing some trials with electric, but only probably on rigids for distribution. Our problem is getting the second journey out of the fleet. So we need to be able to get at least in local work 250 miles out of truck in a day. On a trunking network, we must get 420 miles out of truck in a day. So alternative fuels are still a challenge. We've got our first fleet of vehicles now onto HNV. That's working quite well. Although I still think if I was a gambling man, hydrogen will be the way that we'll end up going. But unfortunately, we're still about 10 years away from that truck coming off production line. The main thing for me, we're just saying just now, everything's down to capacity and price. So we have to get something that's sustainable and affordable. I think that's the challenge just now.
And in terms of support from the Scottish Government, what's the position on the transition to cleaner fuels from Holyrood?
Transport Scotland are engaging with us. I think just now they're still principally focused on electric. And I'm not saying that's wrong for what happens in the city centres, those areas. What they have to realise, there's a place for everything. But everything can't replace one thing. Yeah. And I think our hardest one just now is getting that engagement with them, on what works and what doesn't work.
So just going back to the road rail transition, what are the kind of key statistics we all need to kind of bear in mind about the benefits?
Well, your biggest benefit of number one is there's over 70% reduction on your carbon footprint by going to rail. I think that's number one. Secondly, our trains run between 36 and 40 containers, so loads per train. So again, that's a key thing as well from that point of view. But I think the benefits for me is, first of all, we have seen the last few years an improvement in productivity from our local fleet than what we had. A bit more sustainability in our bottom line, because again, when we're working locally, you can react more to when things go wrong. And I think generally, if you look going forward the way of the whole sector and all, we know we have to do things differently. And I think that's one thing that it does bring.
If I was a magic person, which I'm clearly not, and I could grant you one wish, what would be your one wish for Malcolm's and for the business generally?
I think the one wish probably would be one wish, might be too many or not enough. For me, I always say our company strategy is more of the same but different. And people will say, well, what will be different? I said, I'll tell you when we get there, because in our industry, we still have to react with the day. I think the big challenge we have in rail place part of my policy, or we in Malcolm's, is we invest heavily in the future, but respond with the day. What we need now is probably more relationships, partnerships and engagement to all parties to come to the table and discuss that. So my one wish is probably a degree of more transparency. I think the government have to come and not just talk to us, but listen to us. Because I think fundamentally they engage with the business sector. I'm not sure they fully understand what we're trying to tell them. My motto in our trucks has always been practical solutions, successful partnerships. That's what things are all about. It has to work for everybody.
That's great. Andrew, thank you very much indeed. Brilliant.